6 school children perish in a road accident in Lugari.
The county government will not tolerate blackmail.
A walking nation. Matatu strike begins in Nairobi.
A freedom song from Bondo. House girl scores a B+ in KCSE.
It's only the eyes. Does not affect the brains, so you can still think. So as long as you can still think and get the concepts in your head, then I think you just need to retrieve them during the examination.
Also on KTN Prime, a visually impaired boy makes history with an A in KCSE.
This is KTN Prime with Nancy Kachungira and Ben Kitili.
From the Standard Group Center here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, and thank you for making time for us. This is KTN Prime.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is William Silla. Now, sadly, we begin with some tragic news from Lugari, where 6 pupils, a pedestrian and a driver died after a truck ran over them.
The accident involved a tractor, a lorry, and a motorcycle, and KTN's Edith Kimani begins our coverage tonight.
The scene of the accident is shocking. The details difficult to fathom. 4 pupils from the nearby St. Mukasa Chimoy Primary School dead on impact after this tractor came crushing into them. 2 others would later succumb to their injuries in hospital. The pupils were heading to lunch well away from the road when the unthinkable happened.
Gari ilikuwa inakuja ya miwa, alafu roli ikatokezea, imeruzi nini, ma brakes control, alafu ika overtake from the left side. Na ikakonga tractor, pale kulikuwa na wanafunzi ambao walikuwa wanaenda nyumbani masaa ya lunch. Hiyo gari ikakonga wanafunzi, wakakufa.
The children, facing away from the traffic, did not even see the truck coming. In one of their homes, there is a numbing silence. A woman sits by her door where she received the news. She has not moved since. We're told she is the mother of 2 girls who lost their lives in the accident. At the school, learning has stopped. Everyone is still trying to wrap their minds around the reality. But businessmen along the busy road say they're used to death on this well-known black spot. At the Webuye District Hospital, 5 survivors of the accident are receiving treatment. Doctors say they may have to move them to the Moi Referral Hospital to ensure their survival. Abubakar Mawasha, the Webuye traffic commandant, has a simple message.
My appeal is to members of public. In case of any accident, they have to make sure that they're safety for themselves.
But residents here wonder if that is enough to spare parents from such horrific reality. Edith Kimani, KTN.
What a sad story. Now, Nairobi Central Business District was today on lockdown as matatu operators went on the rampage.
Yes, the operators who castigated the county government for the new parking fees paralyzed transport along major roads in the city, forcing thousands of residents to trek long distances.
KTN's Betty Kialo reports.
Nairobi woke up to this. Blocked roads, confusion, chaos. What started as a matatu strike in the county turned into mayhem that left the city and its environs at a standstill. It first began along the Thika superhighway. All 8 lanes were rendered impassable as matatu drivers parked their vehicles smack in the middle of the road. Thousands were forced to hit the road, walking several kilometers to the CBD.
They have brought their anger to the road, caused this distraction and disturbance to the general public. and this is what we are trying to sort out now.
The cause of this whole mess was nothing else but money. The operators lamented that the newly implemented parking fees were exorbitant and that the county government failed to honor a gentleman's agreement that would have seen the parking fees go down.
We squarely blame the county government for this mess.
According to the agreement, the fee for a 14-seater matatu was to go down from 5,000 to 3,650 shillings, a 33-seater minibus from 8,000 to 5,500 shillings, and for bigger buses, the rate was 7,200, down from 10,000 shillings. Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero stood his ground, saying he would only commit to dialogue when order was restored.
The county government will not tolerate blackmail. Neither will it tolerate impunity. So we've just agreed that they will get the matatus to stop blocking the roads. Then we will discuss and come to an agreement.
With talks between the Nairobi County government and striking matatu operators having stalled, it is a clear indication that come tomorrow morning, Nairobi residents might be forced to look for alternative means of transport to get to work, as the strike might just continue. Betty Kialo, KTN.
It was a messy affair in the capital, and that is the basis of our big question tonight. We are asking you, do you support the Nairobi Matatu strike over new parking fees? Send your yes or no response to the number 22155 plus a brief comment. You can also join the conversation via social media on Twitter. The handles up at Ben_Kitili, at Kachungira, and at KTN Kenya. Now we have a response from the Nairobi County government. Nancy?
Yes, that's right. As you can see, the county government is not backing down. What is the reason for this? Well, in a statement that was released earlier today, we will look at some of the reasons for that. As we can see here, one of the things that was expressly stated by the county government is the fact that they're doing this because the parking fees were actually in the Finance Act of 2013, which was passed by the County Assembly. Now, if you're asking yourself whether transport operators actually had a chance to react to this, they did, because residents, transport operators were actually consulted during this process when it was still a bill and before this was passed into an act. Now, the county government did sit down and actually explain how they were planning to come up with resources and how they were planning to use them as well, and that was included in that bill. Now, of course, there were some responses to this bill, and those were actually tabled and put for deliberation before the County Assembly, which did eventually, as we can see in the next slide, pass that bill into act. Now, this act was actually gazetted on the 26th of September 2013, and that is also the date which this act was actually published and also enacted. That's the 26th of September 2013. So this is not really something that's coming as a surprise. This is something that has been coming for a while now. The Matatu Welfare Association did actually protest these rates, and they did this in court. They did lose that case, however, and they did decide to take it up into a court of appeal. And they did ask that while they're in the court of appeal, there is a stay on this order and they're allowed to pay the former fees. However, this was a case that they also lost, as we can see in this next slide, and they were not able to actually retract what the county assembly had decided, which means that they still had to pay this amount that the county assembly had decided. Now, what this means as well for now is that this case is actually still in the Court of Appeal, and there is no legal backing or legal framework for them to now rescind that decision until this case has been heard in the Court of Appeal. Now, of course, there is a huge difference between what the fares were, the parking fares were, and what they are now, where you used to have fares of 2,000, for instance. 13-seaters now have to pay 5,000 shillings in parking rates. And of course, it's now also going up to 8,000 shillings, where it used to be much less for those that are going up to 32-seaters. So it is a large amount, but again, this is not something that's just coming out of the blue. This is something that has been in process. So the question, of course, is with this legal standing that the county government is actually taking, does the Matatu Owners Association have a leg to stand on? Well, Ben, perhaps you'll be able to get some of those answers for us.
Thank you, Nancy. Let's now bring in the spokesman of the Nairobi Metropolitan PSV Sacco Union Limited, that is Henry Muindi, and just shed some more light on this issue. Sir, let's just start where my colleague left off, the response of the Nairobi County government. Governor Evans Kidero says, indeed, all the stakeholders in the Matatu industry were brought on board when they were gazetting that County Finance Act. So why this now?
What we are saying, we as the Nairobi Metropolitan Union, we represent 102 SACCOs. The SACCOs were never consulted. That's one fact. What Kidero did, he consulted Kimutai and Mbogwa, and Kimutai represents companies, and Mbogwa represents welfare. And so the Nairobi Metropolitan represents 102 SACCOs. That is why you saw the SACCOs were the ones that were leading. Actually, today we didn't strike. Today we just assembled our people together. We just wanted to bring forward our grievances to the governor. Today we didn't have a strike.
Before we go to the details of what you exactly want, are you saying that Simon Kimutai, chairman of the Matatu Owners Association, and Dixon Mbogwa, chairman of the Matatu Welfare Association, do not represent your interests?
They
as
don't
SACCOs?
represent our interests as SACCOs. And what we say is that the SACCOs are normally represented by the Nairobi Metropolitan PSV SACCOs Union. That is the one that represents. Kimutai and Mbogwa, they don't represent us.
So what are your issues as of today's strike?
Okay, our issues as of today's strike were that we had an agreement with the governor. We discussed with him and we agreed on Monday that that he was going to reduce the rates that we had agreed. And of course, you have already shown the figures on the screen, and I don't want to dwell much on that. So what we are saying is that he turned his back against us again, because now again he's the one who called us. We went to his office. We had a successful discussion with him, but unfortunately we've come to realize, when I saw today's paper, I realized something, because there's a page in the today's paper that is saying Mr. Ondieki warned that the Matatu risk expulsion from the city center, paving the way for a 200 fleet company called Mass Bus Transit. So, which means it's like they've already been compromised by another company which has 200 buses, or which would like to know which company is this, because ourselves it's not like we've been unable, and we are not refusing to pay this fee that they're saying. But what we are saying is, what services are they rendering towards the fee that we are supposed to pay? There's also another amount that they are not mentioning. There's a parking bay fee that is we are supposed to pay 220,000 annually. There's office fee. We were paying office fee 10,000 shillings. So now he's saying we pay 120,000. There's also a booking office a fee that is supposed to be paid 24,000. So what we are saying is, the reason why today we went we just paralyzed the operations, and we tried to bring our message across to the governor, was we are trying to tell him that if he says that, then he insists that we have to go by this, and the common mwananchi supports him, then what we are saying is we are going to load this task to the common mwananchi.
Okay, so Kidero says that he will not negotiate until there is order back on the roads. So did you achieve what you intended to achieve today, and what is the way forward?
Today we actually achieved what we had intended to achieve, even though he didn't give us the ear, but we have a very able senator who is Mike Sonko. I'm just coming from his office right now, and we've discussed with him, and he's the one who has actually requested us to let our people go back to work for today. But as for tomorrow, then we are saying tomorrow, because today there was a lot of harassment and they're saying that we blocked the roads. What we are saying is that as from tomorrow we are not going to block any roads. Tomorrow we are not going to block anyone from going to work. What we are saying is that tomorrow we are simply going to park our vehicles, and we are going to now walk to town and ask the Kidero which is the way forward.
What about what is happening in court? Does it have an impact on all this?
What is happening in court, I cannot discuss or disclose what is happening in court, because that one is a matter that I cannot touch on it right now, because it's a process that is already going on.
Okay, thank you. Henry Muindi, the spokesman of the Matatu, of the Nairobi Metropolitan PSV Sacco Union that represent 102 SACCOs in Nairobi. Now, urban planners have rated Nairobi at traffic menace as one of the worst in Africa. And as KTN's Joy Doreen Bira reports, despite Governor Evans Kidero's efforts to decongest the city, nothing seems to be working.
The major problem that we are facing is not even space where they will park. The major and the most serious problem is the attitude of the drivers, the attitude of the touts, the attitude of the pedestrians, and the attitude of passengers.
In Nairobi, just like in every rising capital city, there is always a state of severe road congestion when continuous lines of vehicles block an entire network of intersecting streets. This happens every single weekday during peak hours. This gridlock is what characterizes the roads in this city of Nairobi.
At the point where there is the junction, there is an element of restriction in terms of movement. So you find, for example, traffic coming from away from Kiambu. If anybody wants to change and use Forest Road from Kiambu, you have to almost cross against the movement of every other vehicle on the highway.
The people must also know that laws are made and there's a process, and they are also consulted, and even the matatu operators should have maybe made their contribution when the law was passed.
Being the gateway to 90% of traffic in Kenya, urban planners say for Nairobi to rid itself of the congestion, these need to have pick-up and drop-off points that are clearly monitored and radical efforts taken to expand the city immediately. But does Nairobi County have space for expansion?
Part of the mess has been there for the last 4 or 5 decades. We are expanding Karioko stage, Park Road, Muturwa, Grove Cinema, and Ngara area. We are expanding all of those areas so that most of the vehicles from Thika Road, from Kapete South, mainly Kapete, Lower Kapete, vehicles from Chogo Road can terminate. Instead of coming to the CBD, they can terminate there. Then we can have some buses which bring them at a cheaper rate.
An integrated transport system, widened junctions and lanes, efficient digital traffic lights and mass transit passes as well as railways are part of the Nairobi decongestion plan.
Usually the national governments or the county governments, whichever government comes in, invest heavily on public transport.
Kenya is a free economy, but urban planners argue that when a public good or service is managed by private investors, it ceases to be a public good or service. In this case, Nairobi's public transport being majorly managed by private investors is one of the reasons that Nairobi is clogged with congestion. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN.
If you live in Nairobi, it's very likely that today's matatu strike cost you a lot of time. But today's traffic nightmare also cost the county millions of shillings. More than anything, it exposed the major loopholes in Kenya's transport sector. And as KTN's Asha Mwilu now reports, the government is once again on the spot over transport issues.
As soon as it was clear that the matatu strike was explosive and getting out of hand, the government came out to do what it does best, talking tough.
The county government will not tolerate blackmail. Neither will it tolerate impunity.
And stern rhetoric. But even the strongest of statements could not hide the nightmare that the traffic docket has become for both the central and county governments. Haunting them even further are the losses incurred in Wednesday's traffic gridlock.
It has stopped customers coming into the market to buy. It has denied workers the ability to produce. So you've got lost production and lost trading. Nairobi, I keep saying, is very important because it carries more than 60% of the country's GDP. Now, can you imagine messing with 60% of a country's GDP? We've got to be very careful with that.
We've got to fix Nairobi. This is the heartbeat of Kenya's economy. If people are taking 2.5 hours to get to work, it's not a functioning city.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The scariest bit is that unmanageable traffic snarl-ups have become the norm in Nairobi. In fact, it is estimated that between 4 to 5 man-hours are wasted daily in traffic. Nairobi County alone loses at least 5 million shillings every day due to traffic.
Huwa naenda skodi 3 asubuhi. Ili kwanza niende watu asubuhi, unajua town hakukuangi. So huwa naenda tripu 3 kwa sababu siwezi make zaidi ya hizo asubuhi kwenda watu. Kwa hivyo jamu huwa inashikana sana, inabidi niende skodi 3.
Now we can see what's in front of us, which is a massive traffic gridlock. That's only going to get worse. I have not seen a solution to it yet. We can talk about smart IT. There are lots of things that can be done.
If you can lengthen the times that Nairobians have to get to the workplaces or the schools and whatnot, then maybe you might increase the amount of time that people are road users are on the road, and therefore you'll have less congestion.
With the government working at snail's pace to address Nairobi's traffic menace, the vice is now slowly creeping into other counties. With public transport policies and strategies piled on central government's desk, the county government is yet to deal with the city congestion and the ever-escalating parking fees. Ashamwelu, KTN, Nairobi.
Let's now go back to the KCSE class of 2013 performance. And disability is indeed not an inability. A visually impaired young boy from Nakuru Boys High School beat all odds and emerged as the country's best visually impaired candidate in last year's KCSE examinations. Lawrence Momanya, however, says despite making history, it was not an easy task. After a good performance in his KCPE, his parents took him from Nairobi all the way to Nakuru High School. And it is here that he did shine despite his total lack of sight. He has a mean grade of A- with an A- in mathematics, B+ in English, an A in biology, A in history and Christian religious education. He also scored an A, B+ in agriculture and A in Kiswahili.
Something like visual impairment, it's only the eyes, does not affect the brains, so you can still think. So as long as you can still think and get the concepts in your head, then I think you just need to retrieve them during the examination and it will be all right.
I think I encountered any challenges when bringing him to the school because I did it willingly. I think I accepted him from the time he became my child. I think that's the best I can put it.
We went out of our way to ensure that they have the resources that they need, though with limited funding available, because the cost of education, particularly for the visually impaired, is so high.
I did not get any challenges as far as he's concerned because he was an obedient and disciplined boy and hardworking. I knew he was going to make it.
Well, let's go from one inspiring story to another. Here's a question. Have you ever read the poem A Freedom Song by Marjorie Oluthe Magoe? Well, to jog your memory, it's a poem about a young girl called Atieno who washes dishes, plucks the chicken, and does things like that. Well, tonight, KTN brings you the story of a real Atieno from Bondo, a house girl who, with the help of her employer, defied the odds, sat the KCSE exams, and scored a B+. Angel Katusia has Elizabeth Atieno's story.
I left home in 2004 and I ran to Mbita where I was living with a friend.
The story of Elizabeth Atieno from Bondo is an inspiring one. At 16 years old, Elizabeth had dropped out of school in class 6 due to what she told us were private family issues.
After that, she told me that there is one of my uncle's wife. She needed a house help, so I can take you to Nairobi. So I said yes. Let me just see if I can go to Nairobi.
In Nairobi, Elizabeth found herself in new surroundings. She was not sure she would be able to cope in the city.
There were so many ladies talking in English. So I was a bit confused. How will I live in this house with this English and I can't understand some of them?
But it is that English that inspired her. Margaret Muga is the woman Atieno is referring to. Margaret employed Atieno as a house help, but according to her, there was something unique about Atieno.
I realized that she was a girl who was very intelligent and very responsible and very neat and particular and very beautiful.
I was very excellent in my work. Everything I did was just okay. So she was always studying me, asking me questions in English.
It did not take long before Margaret offered to take Atieno to a tailoring school, but Atieno's ambitions were bigger.
Look at me in the eye. Why do you want to go to school? And then she said, the way they speak English, and even the way you speak English here, it means there's something good when you go to school.
Margaret finally made the decision. She could not secure a school in Nairobi, so she took her to Bondo to stay with her sister and enrolled her in class 7. Atieno sat for her KCPE and passed and joined Nyamira Girls, still chasing her dream to speak proper English.
At the end of 2013, I did my Form 4 and got a B+, and I'm happy.
My joy is that Atieno will never be a house help again. Never.
I want to be a journalist.
Atieno's dream now may not seem as far-fetched as it seemed before. Margaret, her mentor and guardian, says her joy is to see Atieno speak the English she so desired to in a future profession. Angel Katusia, KTN.
You know, Ben, I think that's a really great story. I mean, so many employers forget that their house girls don't actually want to be house girls for the rest of their lives.
Very inspirational story there.
Great thing she did. Well, let's remind you now of our big Q. And of course, it's about the Matatu strike. We're asking you whether you actually support the strike over new parking fees.
Well, tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no opinion to 2255. You can tweet us as well at KTN Kenya, at Ben_Kitili, and at Kachungira. You're watching KTN Prime. We're taking a short break now, but don't go too far. We'll be back shortly with more.
1 year on, Jubilee's performance in ensuring food security.
Welcome back. This is KTN Prime.
Now, it is 1 year since the Jubilee government took office, and one of the key projects flagged off by President Uhuru Kenyatta is the Galana Kalalu Food Security Project.
Tonight, we look at the state of food security in the country. KTN's Mercy Kandia with that report.
It is a country that hopes to feed its people, to have not just enough, but much more for its over 40 million citizens. In its first year in government, the Jubilee Alliance launched an ambitious irrigation project, the Galana Kalalu Food Security Project. The 10,000-acre farm project was the first phase of a projected 1 million-acre irrigation plan over the next 5 years at a cost of 250 billion shillings. The project, if successful, will take over as the grain basket from the North Rift counties, Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia.
We are also alive to the fact that if it will be cheaper to produce maize in Galana, then we must venture to other areas that will still contribute to food security in this country.
Our technology transfer and uptake is still quite low, but we want to be a bit deliberate and see whether we can try to translate some of those research information that is kept in the archives to be brought down for practicability purposes within our county.
The 250 billion shillings Game Changer project is expected to produce between 80 and 100 bags of maize per acre per year. Currently, a farmer in the North Rift is lucky to get 20 bags per acre per year. Farming in the North Rift has been tasking for many farmers due to the high cost of farming input coupled with changes in the weather patterns. Fertilizer price was greatly reduced recently by the national government. However, a limit was put to each farmer to buy a maximum of only 40 bags.
we've taken responsibility of taking the fertilizer from the National Cereals and Produce Board depots to stores owned by cooperative movements in the county, and even to some small stores that the National Cereals and Produce Board had developed, but they were not being utilized. That way, we are reducing the time it takes for a farmer to get fertilizer. 2, we are making it more accessible to even a farmer who needs to plant just half an acre. We believe all this concerted effort will go towards increasing the amount of food we have in the county and by extension the country.
Storage of produce has been an issue countrywide, thus the need for better storage facilities throughout the country and the need to promote value addition projects. Turkana and Baringo counties are currently experiencing drought, Turkana being the worst hit every year. The arid county relies heavily on food donations, a situation that is far from over. According to a seasonal report on the March, April, May long rains released by the Kenya Meteorological Department, the long rains expected in the northwestern region are projected to be below average, Turkana bracing for a prolonged dry spell. The cultural belief in the ownership of numerous livestock for a Turkana resident worsens the drought situation, as goats cannot be slaughtered for food, and more effort is spent searching for water for the numerous livestock.
I've done a procurement advert asking anyone who has food resources, maize, beans and oil, and ready to sell for us, to show interest so that we can buy it directly.
I was usually telling Nanok, tunaweza kubaliana, I concentrate in food production, you concentrate in oil, alafu unanipatia mafuta, mimi nakupatia chakula, and we can go back to barter trade.
The aquifer discovered at the Lotikipi Plains is enough to sustain the country for 70 years. The water is yet to be utilized by the government for irrigation purposes. By adopting farming technology that has been successful in other countries will ensure the country moves forward as a unit.
Kama kweli tunaamini ya kwamba tunataka kupambana na umaskini, kama kweli tunasema ya kwamba tunataka kupambana na njaa, kama kweli tunataka kusema ya kwamba tunapambana na ukosefu wa kazi kwa vijana wetu, ni miradi kama hii ambayo itatusaidia kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumepambana na jangwa hizo ambazo zinakumba taifa letu la Kenya.
Nataka mzalishe vyakula ndio tuweze kukabiliana na changamoto ya njaa.
The ambitious Galana Kalalu Food Security Project standing out as one way of ensuring a food secure country. That is, if only the Jubilee government keeps its word. It is quite ironic for the North Rift region to be known as the country's breadbasket, while some counties within the same region are dying of hunger or depending on food aid. It is clear that the county and national government need to do much more on research and technology to do away with this problem. Masi Kandie, KTN, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County.
Well, some good news next. St. George's Primary School in Eldoret Town is the beneficiary of the Standard Group and LSEC initiative of providing homes and property to viewers in the next 3 months. LSEC, the property show, and KTN staff travelled to Eldoret to give the first property, which is a dormitory, to the school identified with the help of the Eldoret governor. The public school is mainly supported by well-wishers and the Catholic Church. It was started to help underprivileged children, including the physically or mentally challenged. LSEC has partnered with the Standard Group and will provide KTN with homes or properties that viewers will actually get as rewards on the property show for a period of 3 months. The campaign, driven mainly by the property show, airs on KTN every Sunday at 6 p.m. It's a show that gives viewers all the information and advice that they'd require when making the decision to invest, buy, or even when they're building their future homes.
Thank you for staying with us here on KTN Prime. We'll take another quick break, but don't go too far. I'll be back shortly with the latest in business. Let's shift gears a bit. Welcome to KTN Business. Now, KCB Group has agreed to take over a 5 billion loan facility advance to the defunct City Council of Nairobi by Equity Bank. The loan, which has attracted its fair share of controversy and scrutiny, was to settle debts owed by then city fathers. KTN's business editor Joseph Bonyo has the details.
The defunct City Council of Nairobi documents indicate, as at the end of October 2009, had a debt portfolio estimated at 30 billion shillings. This was largely attributed to corruption and revenue pilferage by the city fathers. In order to remain afloat, the council received a 5 billion shillings loan facility from top-tier bank Equity in February of 2011. This was to enable it settle its dues with creditors. The loan, according to the arrangement, was to be paid in 5 years on a quarterly basis.
I, Evans Odhiambo Kidero.
However, the coming into force of the county governments 1 year ago disrupted the scheduled repayment due to what is described as financial strains. Attempts by the county government to negotiate interest rates charged by the bank KTN Business has learned have been unsuccessful. It is out of this that the county government began a series of negotiations with a number of local banks before settling on KCB Group. The bank documents in our possession indicate agreed to an 8-year tenor and a 6-month grace period, as well as an interest rate of 13%, translating to a repayment of 67.2 million monthly. On its part, the county government KCB Group noted would undertake an exclusive banking deal with the lender. This will see KCB Group take charge of all revenue collections by the county government, as well as hold main project revenue account, ward development accounts, and cashback revenues for MCAs. Part of the deal will also see KCB Group open a branch at City Hall, ostensibly to enhance revenue collections for the county government. The county government has already presented the proposal to the county assembly, as well as initiating negotiations with the Equity Bank to terminate the loan with them. Joseph Bonyo, KTN Business.
Staying with county governments and banks, the county government of Nyeri has entered into an agency agreement with the Equity Bank in efforts to streamline its revenue collection. The bank says it will deploy its technological platform to enable an efficient revenue collection system that will consolidate all payments into one bank account. Nyeri Governor Nyeritu Gachagua said that their partnership with the Equity Bank will minimize leakages, maximize collection, and simplify the payment process. The collection channels will include mobile banking, agents, and card payments. Nyeri's main revenue streams include parking and market fees, land rates and rent, business permits, and hiring of county facilities.
Which to us is very, very low. The potential is much higher. We have, like any other county, serious revenue leakages in terms of our agents who collect revenue all over the county. And by sealing those loopholes, we think this will make a very, very big effect.
And we believe with that efficiency, we not only reduce the costs of revenue administration within the county government, but they are also able to collect more because of the convenience and the fact that it's cashless. We eliminate corruption in the process. And as a result, then we expect that the county government should collect more revenue and deliver more services to the public.
The Kenya Pipeline Company plans to build a liquefied petroleum gas storage and bottling plant this year. This is part of the company's strategy to help meet growing demand for the commodity in the region. KTN's Michael Karanja reports.
Kenya Pipeline is in the process of purchasing land in Kajiado County to put up the new LPG storage and bottling facilities. In a paid-up advert, the company says it is looking for an 80 to 100-acre piece of land situated along the Mombasa-Nairobi railway line. A study jointly conducted by the Ministry of Energy and the World Bank in 2005 recommended that LPG facilities with a total capacity of 8,700 tons be set up in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Nakuru. This is expected to meet growing demand of LPG given its current constraints, driven by a lack of LPG import facilities at Mombasa and a weak distribution network. The LPG storage capacity in the country remains low at 3,960 tons. Construction of the facility is expected to commence this year, while phased development of other inland facilities should commence by mid-2015. Kenya Pipeline is expected to assess the capacity required to ensure the availability and accessibility of LPG at affordable cost to households through a study. Michael Karanja, News Desk.
Now, the proposed takeover of ESA Telecom Kenya Limited has faced a hurdle after one of their suppliers moved to court to halt the imminent deal to sell the company to Airtel and Safaricom. Omeko Electronic Limited, OEL, told the court that ESA, the owner of U-Mobile Telecommunication, are in the process of disposing of its business. OEL Director Anthony Mwiti Kireria alleges that he had supplied 34,500 mobile phone lines, which attracted a total of 15.5 million shillings as activation fees. Kireria, through lawyer Edward Oonge, told High Court Judge Jacqueline Kamau that the mobile company be compelled to deposit 34 million shillings in court as security. In default, warrant of attachment be issued in respect of its assets and its bank account frozen. ESA had contracted their supplier to distribute, sell and promote their former products and services, and the same was done in good faith. The supplier says that he had received information that the mobile company is in the process of winding up its activities in the country and is likely to run away, and it would be difficult for the applicant to execute the judgment. The dispute between the two parties, ESA and OEL, is pending before the arbitrator, who is yet to give their word. The matter will be heard on March 10th.
Well, in case you missed it, let's recap our top story for you. Tonight, we began with the tragic news from Lugari, where 6 pupils, a pedestrian and a driver died after a truck ran over them. The accident involved a tractor, a lorry and a motorcycle. 4 pupils died instantly, while 2 others succumbed to injuries at the Webuye Hospital. The accident occurred at the Chimoy Black Spot along the Turbo Webuye Road. Well, next, let's head over to the sporting world. We've got Nick Mudimba in our sports studio. Good evening to you, Nick, and what's new? What's happening?
Good evening, Nancy. Actually, it's been a tight day for our national team around the Stars. They are on their way coming back home after a watch-friendly match. But that's not only tonight. We'll be giving you the update on what's going to happen from tomorrow from the Barclays Kenya Open. Stay tuned to KTN Sports. All right, I'm Nicholas Mudimba and welcome to KTN Sports. The planned friendly match between Kenya's Harambee Stars and Sudan was a non-starter that after it emerged that the match organizers shocked the Kenyan contingent that the match has been moved to the war-torn city of Darfur. Football Kenya Federation absolved itself from blame, saying the Sudanese Federation is responsible for the unfortunate turn of events. Many had, however, questioned the rationale to have the Stars play Sudan, a team they beat during December's Sekafa Senior Challenge Cup. Chairman Sam Nyamwea says Kenya committed to the match with full knowledge that it should be played in Khartoum. FKF in a statement, however, ordered the players to catch the next flight back home to allow foreign best players to rejoin their clubs. Kenya had accepted to honor their friendly. It would have meant that Gor Mahia and FC Leopards could have missed the services of the key players during the respective return matches this weekend.
All the best coaches,
Top flight Nakuru All-Stars have conceded that they are going through stage fright in sorts in their first season in top flight football. The Nakuru Best League newcomers have lost all the 3 matches and chipped in 7 goals, which condemned them to the basement of the table. However, with 26 matches to play, they say it's too early to write them off just yet.
It is back to the drawing board for top flight Nakuru All-Stars, the team with the longest name in the league but with the least number of points after 3 rounds of matches. It is an open book that the side is operating on the deficit. Top flight has been a delicacy of sorts for 3 teams so far. They have lost all their opening matches, starting with Sony Sugar, West, Sofa Park and Thika United. And with 0 points, they are blaming their losses on stage fright.
Nagundua bado KPLC rahisi vile at least kuna ile difference kutoka na ile ligi yenye tulikuwa na we are still tunawaka bado.
Vile tumeanza kulikuwa na uoga game za kwanza, hiyo game ya kwanza, lakini tunaona nikaa tumeanza catch up. Ilikuwa tunakosa ndogo lakini zisharekebishwa.
The side has cast aside their past dismal show and is now working around the clock to ensure that they move out of the basement. Western Stima is the next opponent and they are promising to switch them off.
Kile ndasema ni hizo pointi 3. Ni pointi za muhimu sana, pointi ambazo lazima tuzichukue. Sio pressure lakini lazima tutazichukua.
The side may be at the basement of the log without a point, but is finding solace in the other newcomers. Kiarewa perched 10th on the log.
All right, to matters athletics. World half marathon record holder Florence Kiplagat says she will not line up in London in April. Kiplagat, who arrived in Iten this morning, says she will spend time recovering from the punishing race when she broke Mary Keitan's record. Florence returned home today to a rousing welcome from, among others, Mary Keitan, Edna Kiplagat, and men's world record holder Wilson Kipsang. Florence set a new world record at 1 hour, 5 minutes and 12 seconds in Barcelona last month. That is 38 seconds off Keitan's 2011 record. Celebrations snagged its way from the Moy Airport in Eldoret and into the home of champions in Iten.
Mary Keitan will be coming back and Edna is here and Priska Chepto is there, so we can form a team whereby we can get it. Everything is possible through passion. I'm happy because what Florence did actually, because she called me today when she was traveling and she told me, Mary, tonight I'm traveling and maybe I want to go and try your record. Will it be possible? Then I tell her, Florence, don't fear, just fear less because everything is possible.
All right, now, promising golfer David Nduva will be the youngest player in the Kenya Open Golf Tournament that tees off tomorrow at the current country golf club. Nduva was among the amateurs who played alongside professionals during the prom event. Today he is confident that a Kenyan golfer will this year pull a surprise. Last year's runner-up Yodi Garcia Pinto played down the possibilities of a strong comeback this year. Expectations, anxiety, those sum up what preoccupies golfers ahead of the start of the 2014 Barclays Kenya Open Golf Tournament. Golfers, professionals and amateurs alike will be eyeing to make the cut. Kenya will once again be represented by its elite golfers who are burning with optimism to push to the end on Sunday. 18-year-old Daniel Nduva has been a threat to many, but he is hopeful that his vast experience will definitely be a new dawn for him in his budding golfing career.
No, I don't feel any pressure because I know I can beat all the other amateurs that are playing and I'm capable of making the cut.
No indigenous Kenyan golfer has won the Kenyan Open, but majority of them believe this year could be a turning point.
Our local pros really did some marvelous job. I hope we don't freeze out like always.
Last year's runner-up Jody Garcia Pinto is playing down his chances of coming back to take what would have been his last season, which he lost in a sudden playoff.
Well, I've only played one hole now with Daniel, but he looks very strong and he's only 18 years old, so hopefully he's going to be very good. And he looks like he's got a lot of power, so he must be able to hit the ball very far.
The tournament tees off on Thursday at 7 a.m. at Current Country and Golf Club.